Okay, another cool thing about this game is, like I said, there are 4 characters, and you don't have to play alone. You can play alone through the entire single player, and you won't miss anything, but this is a game that's definitely made for being played with friends. And you can jump in. Your friends don't have to be the other 3 characters if you pick one. I think it helps to do that, but like all 3 of you could be soldiers or hunters or berserkers. Like it doesn't stop you from doing that at all. You can pretty much be any character you want to, and every character you play through as you can change around through the skill trees and everything. So no character is going to be stronger than the other when you play through with your friends, unless one person's really far ahead of you in the levels and everything like that.
Also, when you're playing with another person, enemies also grow stronger. So that's one thing you want to take note of. There's a wide variety of enemies. Like I said, there's also bosses, and then there's just like you'll meet all kinds of weird shit in Borderlands, which is always fun. With every new area you discover, there's always like a new type of enemy. And also on co-op you get better loot as well. So basically the more the merrier, but your enemies get harder as well. And yeah, once you beat the game, you can just go through playthrough 2, and basically like the enemies get harder, but once again better loot, and you can do the whole thing again. And there's going to be DLC as well along the way. The first one is already out. It's Dr. Ned's Zombie.
Yeah, Dr. Ned's Zombie Island. That comes out November 20th or the 24th for Xbox. And there's no official PC date yet, but the PC will be getting it. They're just trying to figure out a good way to distribute it.
So this game like came out not too long ago, and they're already having like DLC come out, so... But, like, let alone, they don't even, DLC, that's always great for a game, but, like, with the playthrough value, you don't know.
And they're just trying to make sure you don't stop playing this game, because you go through it, and you're like, oh, that was fun. And then you play through, you do play through 2, and playthrough 2 so far, I just started a little while ago, has been fun so far, mainly because the enemies are a lot more difficult, and I think you get a good replay value out of that. To go through and do everything, I'd say it would take you around, let's say 20 hours to get through the entire game. And with friends, that process may be speeded up or be more difficult depending on what...
It all depends, because, you don't have to do a lot of the side quests, and then there's a lot of, like, exploring you can do as well. If you're going straight through, like, the strict story, like, all the story quests, then, I don't know, it's going to be a lot less. But if you, appreciate this game and do like every quest, always look for loot and go back and do things again and again, then it could just be endless hours.
Yeah, and I think the DLC is really going to help that, and we'll be sure to do reviews of that when that comes out.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, let's do final thoughts. Borderlands was a game that I've been waiting for a long time, because I'd known about it when it was first coming out with the original graphics, and then they stopped it and took a year or 2 years to come out with it. So I'd been waiting for this game a long time, and there was a lot of hype around it for me. I don't think there's that much hype around it for other people, but I was not disappointed by this game at all. It lived up to all my expectations, except for the lack story. And aside from that, it just hit home with me, and I think it's one of the better games I've ever played. Like I mentioned earlier, Oblivion was one of my favorite games, and I'd say this is up there with that. It combines an FPS, which I love, and a really good RPG, which I also enjoy from time to time, and not like WoW or anything, but like a real single player experience RPG. And when it adds the co-op into that, it's perfect. And like I said, it's one of the better games I've ever played. The amount of stuff there is to do in quests and looting, and you're always finding new things that, I don't know if I'll ever find two things that are the same when I play through, no matter how many hours I put into it. It's just ridiculous. There's a good variety of enemies. The art style is wonderful. Like I mentioned earlier, it's some of the best I've ever seen since Assassin's Creed and Crackdown. And I think you're really going to enjoy this game. If you buy it and play it single player, you're going to get a lot out of it, but you have to be sure to do the side quest. But if you have friends to play with, you've got to get them to get this game and play with you, and you're just going to have hours of fun put into it, because it's seriously just that good. And I'm going to give this a really strong 9. If it wasn't for the lack of story in a few
The
graphical things, then I would give it higher. But right now it stands at a 9, a really strong 9.
Thank you, Daniel. All right. Well, I've always been fond of like leveling character kind of games, and I haven't really found a strong like FPS type one because I'm not really into the whole WoW kind of RPG. But to a certain point, I like RPGs, and I used to play Diablo back in the day, and that system with like how it's net all the quests and like all the weapons you could get like hundreds of kinds. When I picked up Borderlands to play that, that's what it instantly reminded me of, and I knew I would love this game right from that point I started playing. And the graphics, amazing when I saw it, and just one big thing I want to point out is like the playthrough value of this game. Like, this is probably the best kind of playthrough value you can make of any kind of game, just because at nothing, no matter how many times you play it, you can play it over and over again. And you can play with a different character, which is also what you might want to do next time you want to play. But no matter how many times you want to play, the enemies are going to be different. The guns are always going to be different. And then there's just different ways and approaches you can always do it. I mean, it's an RPG. So no matter how many times you play, it's just always different, unlike other games. And that's what really I think is a strong point on this game. And then the 4-player co-op, there's like a few minor issues with like the servers at first, but they fixed that, and once you start to play with your friends, you see like the true fun of this game, all the fun moments and facing bosses with each other, which also made me like this game a lot more. And just that it was an FPS 2, which I liked, and it was just basically like your character in your world, and you could do whatever you want, which is like the freedom of the game. That's what also sold me on it. So, okay, I'm gonna have to go with the 9.5.
Ooh. Yeah, and the thing was that like I said, I'd known about it, and you really knew nothing about it,
yeah.
So it was.
Oh yeah.
It was good to see you like jump into it, because I had all this hype around it, and I could have easily been let down. But for someone who like knew nothing, you just picked it up and played it.
Yeah, you just told me to play it. I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, it looked good. Yeah, I knew nothing until you like started telling me. Like I knew about it, but I didn't know like they changed the graphics and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can tell if it just takes someone who didn't know anything about it and they loved it, you know.
Yeah.
Got a good game.